Cheers, Chrissy said, holding up a glass of tap water. Cheers, Jana replied flatly. She took the chef's hat and deliberately, forcefully, threw it onto the floor, stomping on it once for good measure. Chrissy winced. That isn't a nice thing to do to Jack's hat. You're right, Jana said, her voice dripping with venom. I should have waited till his head was in it. Chrissy sighed, sitting down at the table next to the Jimmy cake. I don't understand. He said he'd be back in time. Something must have happened to him. Someone happened to him, Jana corrected her. Someone with big blue eyes and big. Well, you know. Okay, Chrissy said, holding up her hands. You know, Jana, there was something about that Karen that I didn't like. She is a very beautiful girl, Jana said bitterly. That was it, Chrissy agreed. Do you think Jack noticed? Noticed. Chrissy, he notices anything female. I think his head is built on a swivel. He's probably halfway to Hollywood with her by now. Chrissy looked thoughtful. You know what the trouble is. We're jealous. Jealous? Jana practically shrieked. Of Jack? I'm not jealous. I'm mad. I am furious that he stood us up on my birthday. No, we don't own him, Jana. Remember, he's just a third of the rent. Yeah, Jana muttered. And a great cook, Chrissy added. Yeah, and a watchdog. Then he should be here watching me blow out my candle, Jana said, her voice catching slightly. She sat down next to Chrissy, pulling the cake box closer. Chrissy, do you dig him? Chrissy blinked. He's okay. Oh, no. I mean, if he wasn't living here, would you? Would I what? You know, Jana nudged her. Jack, yeah. Would you? Chrissy giggled nervously. I asked you first. Would you? No, Jana said, a little too quickly. Oh, not unless he asked me to. Jana amended softly. Chrissy nodded sagely. Well, you know me, Jana. I just hate to be rude. Jana managed a small smile. You're right anyway. We don't own him. He's got his own life to lead. And let's just cut that cake and let's hope his leg heals very quickly. His leg? Yeah, Jana said, picking up the butter knife. The one I'm gonna break when he gets home. Chapter 4, The Freeway Fiasco. Stanley, will you stop that pacing and come to bed? Helen Roper sat up in bed, watching her husband wear a trench into their shag carpet. The clock on the nightstand glowed an angry red, 11:45 p.m. I'm not sleepy, Stanley muttered, chewing on his thumbnail. That's the best time to come to bed, Helen suggested smoothly. Stanley shot her a look. Helen, I'm worried. It's almost midnight. My niece isn't back yet. I entrusted her to that boy. Well, she's probably having a good time. That's what you wanted, isn't it? You wanted her out of the apartment. It's not that, Stanley groaned, running a hand over his thinning hair. My car's been overheating lately. It's got a bad radiator hose. I just don't want him to go too far and blow the engine. Helen laughed softly. You don't have to worry, Stanley. She's with Jack. Remember? Stanley stopped pacing. A look of relief washed over his face. You know, you're right. How far can they go? Jack wouldn't know what to do with a girl like Karen if she came with an instruction manual. He took a step toward the bed, then froze. The color drained from his face. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I just had a thought. Oh, Lord, alert the media, Helen muttered. There's a first time for everything, Stanley said, his voice dropping to a panicked whisper. Helen, guys like Jack, is it possible that they've got some normalness left over in them? Something that could just come out at any time? I don't know, Stanley, Helen said, pretending to think about it. I mean, my niece is a very beautiful girl. She has a way about her. He could convert. Stanley gasped, clutching his chest. My God, he could convert right in the front seat of my Plymouth. Don't worry, Helen said, taking pity on him. I don't think Jack will ever change. He is who he is. Stanley looked at her desperately. You're not just saying that to make me feel better, are you? No, Stanley, because you read about it in the papers all the time, Stanley babbled on, his paranoia in full swing. About people getting changed from men to women and vice versa. It's an epidemic. Helen, how do they do it? Helen, Stanley asked, genuinely bewildered. They have an operation. I know they have an operation. But how do they do it? I can see them taking things off. But how do they put them on? Helen pulled the covers up, a wicked glint in her eye. With Scotch tape, Stanley. Now come to bed. Meanwhile, a few miles away, Stanley's worst nightmare was actively trying to avoid converting. Jack Tripper was sweating. The interior of Stanley's 1970 for Plymouth Valiant felt like a sauna. They were parked on the side of the 405 freeway, steam billowing out from under the hood in a thick, white cloud. Aren't you coming in? Karen purred from the passenger seat. Jack was standing outside the car, staring helplessly at the hissing radiator. He had ruined his shirt, burned his thumb, and, worst of all, he had completely missed the pawn shop's closing time. Jeanette's cameo was locked away behind a steel grate until Monday morning. He had failed. He slumped into the driver's seat, wiping grease off his forehead with the back of his hand. Well, it's kind of late. I don't think I should. Oh, come on, Karen said, sliding across the bench seat until her thigh was pressed firmly against his. Just for a beer. My aunt and uncle are asleep. Okay, Jack said nervously, trying to press himself against the driver's side door. One fast beer. Very fast, lightning fast. Karen reached out and traced the line of his jaw with a manicured finger. It doesn't have to be that fast. Jack swallowed. Hard. This was not going according to plan. Karen had been aggressively flirting with him since the moment they left the apartment. She hadn't wanted to go to a bar. She had insisted on a scenic drive that conveniently ended up stuck in traffic until the car overheated. I feel a little uneasy about your Uncle Roper, Jack lied, hoping to use Stanley as a shield. Oh, don't worry about him, Karen whispered, her breath hot against his ear. My Aunt Helen says he sleeps through everything. We could have a brass band in the living room and he wouldn't stir. Jack offered a weak smile. Oh, Karen reached into the back seat and produced a warm can of beer they had bought at a gas station an hour ago. She popped the tab and handed it to him. "Here's your beer." "Thanks," Jack said, taking a sip of the tepid liquid. "You've been annoying